Hi, folks. Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are you doing? It's been 2 weeks, 2 whole weeks, that I've been away from you guys. So let me take a minute and say hi. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Ava. Hi, Anne, Tika, Hassani, Avian, Tommy, Vicky Ann, Gail, Janelle Speth, Jazzy, Kathleen, Camille. Good. Nice to see all of you. Thank you so much for joining me. So, I know it is Dimanche, Gras. It is Carnival Sunday. Plenty people out at fetes. Plenty people getting ready to go out to events or to watch the Dimanche Gras show. So, we ain't gonna make this too long. It's going to be as compact as I can make it. But there are a couple big item issues I wanted to be able to tackle. Which Dimanche Gras, Natalia? Which Dimanche Gras start? This Dimanche Gras or the regular Dimanche Gras? So let me make this quick because I know some only want to go on to listen to the actual Dimanche Gras, to hear the calypsos and them. Hi, Charmaine from Barbados. Yes, Beamer, the studio is dry now. It took me 2 days or so to get the water out, but the studio is dry now. Hi, Sue in Vancouver, British Columbia. Nice to see you. Hi, Marsha. Hi, Simone. Hi, Shizzies. So yes, it's Carnival. And it is our first Carnival since 2020. Because we didn't have one in 2021, we didn't have one last year, so now we have Carnival, and we in a situation where we're heading towards what we've been calling the mother of all carnivals, and there is a sense in which people are right to call it the mother of all carnivals, because 2 years we haven't had this festival, and in that 2 years time it seems as if we've forgotten a number of things. We've forgotten how chaotic Carnival can be. We've forgotten how much bacchanal could happen during a Carnival season. And in some senses, them fete promoters and them seem to have forgotten how to throw a fete. After 2 years, all I got a rusty, but we will get into it. I want to jump the gun. Hi, Machel, hi Lynn Ransom, hi Belladonna, Allison, Damian Scott, Francilla, Otis, Terrence Jack, Laura Sidney, Alison Archibald, Tanisha Bruce, hi to all of you, Joy Ragunanan, Melissa Cyrus, Joan Paponet, Karen Clifton, Euclid, Pascal Ramsey, Daniel Frederick, hi. So good evening, Newsauce family, and thank you so much for joining me. Super C don't say we want what you need a part 2 to this topic, but while you're all you even hear part 1, all you need a part 2 already. Can't please all you know. Can't please all you. All right, so let me start with the usual good news. All right. So the good news is it's Carnival. As a matter of fact, I could play the song again, like just started the song again, because this is one of my favorite songs for the favorite songs ever. Right? So Destra and Machel. It's Carnival. So, well, here. Where to start? First thing is Carnival, one. Second thing, right, so Trini Carnival, and I'm only going with traditional Carnival costumes and thing, right? This morning we had some very good news. Renegades won, and in this picture is the arranger for the band, Duvon Stott of BP Renegades won. And the lady he is holding on to there is Black Stallions' widow, because Renegades played Black Man Feeling to Party, and that was their winning composition for Panorama 2023. And if Olean listened to nothing else for the year, go and listen to Renegade's arrangement of that song. You should also listen to BP Invader's arrangement for Bondem. Those two arrangements were my two favorite arrangements of the entire carnival season. I'm a Despas fan to my heart. I am also an Exodus supporter, but I could recognize when two other pan sides have come out, two other steel orchestras have come out and done some really solid work. So congratulations to all the steel orchestras that took part in Panorama, and special congratulations to the top placing bands, especially BP Renegades, right? They did an excellent job this year. Now, I am not a big fetter. There are certain fests I go to, and I go to those fests because I like to hear live music. So there are a couple shows I will go to at the start of the season because I know the show allows you to hear a range of soca artists. And there are certain shows I go to at the end of the season, again, because the show will allow you to hear a range of soca artists. This year, the show that I went to at the start of the season was Second Star's show, Second Sunday. I heard a range of artists. It gave me a sense of what were the songs and who were the artists to listen to for the season. And so later on, we had a talk about Machel, because I am a woman attending all Machel concerts since he did Real Unity. And that Real Unity is 20 something years ago, easily, because I attended that show in my early to mid 20s. I was about 22, 23, somewhere thereabouts when I attended Real Unity. So that is, that's about 25 years ago. It's certainly more than 20 years ago that I attended that show. So we had to talk about Machel. We had to talk about The Missing File. We had to talk about Carnival in general. And we had to talk about this man who have a tired piggy, right? So let's see all your boy tech guy work, right? Or let's see tech guy poster. All right, so tech guy, make sure he let all you see all the topics we're going to be discussing today. So let me get into it. The first thing we had to talk about is small bamboo energy. And at this point, I'm going to talk about myself a little bit. I had to give all you a little personal story, because I feel just now, I'm reading a message here. Somebody's asking, are you coming with Jackass headset, face purple crying? From Slick Money Grip. Slick Money Grip, I ain't sure what you mean there. Are you talking about the headpiece that I tend to wear? I might be wearing that headpiece. If I do wear it, I'll take a picture and put it up so they could see. Hi, Rodell. I'm seeing you under your other name. So nice to see you. Good. I'm seeing other people saying that they're Despas fans. Somebody saying congrats to Maria Bola. We ain't rush the brush yet. We go in there. We reaching there. We're gonna talk about people, man, just now. Good. So first thing we're gonna discuss is small bamboo energy. And we're going to discuss small bamboo energy because one of the major ways in which people, or rather I should say social media folks social media folks on the political landscape here. So maybe I should talk about people who are on the political landscape. So we have a whole bunch of people who are on the political landscape, and they have an issue with me because I'm very outspoken. I'm outspoken about a number of things. Actually, everything. Once, what my mic is no one leads adjusting. No, this my mic is very loud. So maybe you want to put on some headphones, Jennifer. My mic is loud in my ears right now, and I can't put any more levels onto this system. Good. So let me get back to small bamboo energy. Political landscape, outspoken. Lots of people just get their feelings hurt when I speak up about a range of things. Oftentimes their feelings are hurt because I'm not necessarily agreeing with their take on an issue. And I think that we have to get to a particular level of maturity where we could have different points of view, different ideas, and we don't have to attack one another. So there's a lot that Inshan Ishmael says, and I am not calling him Impshan Imshel. No, I calling him by full name because I'm not attempting to say anything defamatory. I speak up on a number of issues. Other people speak up on a number of issues, and I never feel that I have to attack them personally. I never feel that I have to discuss what Inshan Ishmael looks like. I never feel I have to discuss Inshan Ishmael's physical features. None of those things. I never feel I have to do that when I'm discussing Philip Edward Alexander. And I mean, if I wanted to, I could get very personal where Philip is concerned. And I could get very personal with a range of other persons as well. But I don't feel that that's how I need to or should attack their illogical arguments and their illogical discussions. So when they put up things that I don't agree with, I will tackle the issue. So if Inshan attacks, let's say, Kareem Marcel, the way he was attacking Kareem Marcel's degree and Kareem Marcel's professionalism and Kareem Marcel's claims of being one of the successes that came out of Beetham, I don't have to come and attack Inshan the person. I can attack Inshan's line of reasoning. So when I see these men who, for the most part, always talking about all the good they're doing for people. Philip always talking about all the good he doing for people. Inshan always talking about all the good he doing for people. When they are challenged, have you all ever noticed that the first thing they just do is attack what people look like? The first thing. Either they have to call you names, reference what you look like, or find ways to drag your name and reputation in the mud. And so that for me is a sign of somebody who just pushing small bamboo energy. When as a man, the only way you could tackle the views of a female, a woman who is challenging the things that you are saying, who's challenging your arguments and undermining your arguments, when the only way you could come back at that woman is to attack what she looks like physically, whether it's my hair, my complexion, my teeth, whatever the part of my body that you feel you need to attack to be able to attack, to be able to undermine the ways in which I've challenged you, right? Well, to my mind, small bamboo energy. So let me show you what brought on this particular thing. In 2023, so 22 and 21, Valentine's 22 and 21, somebody, I don't know whom, put up a poster that had Gary, Philip, Inshan, and Ian Allen, and calling them Trini Avengers. Somebody then sent me a modified version of the picture. They put the letters S and C. Maybe it means silk, maybe it means senior counsel, I don't know. But they sent me a modified version of the image with S and C in front of the Avengers. And I had a good laugh. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was witty. And I put the picture up and just said, there, I fixed it, Trini Scavengers. Because, of course, SC in front of Avengers, you know, it changes the word. And I'm firm in my belief that these fellas, they spend a lot of time feeding off the grief, the anxiety, the pain, and the trauma of citizens to be able to boost their image and give themselves political currency. So I put up that 2 years ago. The picture of them as superheroes. And men was real toting. Men was real hurting off that image. So as you know, social media does bring back up memories, right? So Facebook memories comes up with the picture. And I put the picture back up. I put the memory back up. And I said, well, this didn't age well. As in, you know, them being Avengers here. That didn't age well. Inshan then decides that he's going to put up a picture of me from a couple carnivals ago. Can't remember how many carnivals ago this was. But puts up this picture of me juxtaposed with the picture of them and says, well, according to Newsauce, this did not age well. And he says, well, apparently I can say the same for P&M Tanti. Now, I'm going to talk to you all about something. I have a mineral deficiency that makes it difficult for my body to absorb calcium properly, right? So I don't absorb calcium as well as the average person would absorb calcium. So as a result of that, not being able to absorb calcium in a particular way means that your bones are not as strong as regular people's bones would be. So along my jaw, since my 30s, there's been bone loss, right? In upper and lower jaw. There's also, it also impacts bones in the rest of my body. But the part of my body that has had the most serious impact in terms of not absorbing calcium properly would be the bones within, you know, my face and my jaw. So as a result of that, because the bones there are not as dense as they ought to be, that would have had implications for teeth, right? Good. I've had this problem for however long. So I personally never had an issue with people making fun, poking jokes at me, and feeling that they want to make fun of me because of my teeth. Because I know why my teeth are the way they are. So I've looked on for years at people who consistently use my teeth as a reason to attack me. And I paused and I thought to myself, what does it say about you as a man or as a woman that when somebody comes at you to discuss an issue, the only way you could challenge that issue is to attack something about the woman or about the person, right? What does it say? So I come and I say, you attacking carnival in a way that is racist. And I stand by that comment. Inshan Ishmael has attacked carnival and attacked participation in carnival and attacked government and expenditure on carnival in a way that is racist, because it focuses on speaking about carnival in a derogatory, reductive way. So I attack your logic and you attack my teeth. Inshan, listen, you ain't a joke idiot, you know. You ain't small in joke, you know. So, what I will say, Inshan, is that when I work in all that work that I just do, that all it is be fretting about, because all you damn well know are qualified enough and I educated enough to be doing the work that I'm doing. When I work, I just save, and I just save my money, and I just spend my money on myself. So I don't know, Inshan. You say you're a successful businessman. So I want to suggest to you, you see, the same way I could invest my money on myself and make sure that when I'm smiling, my smile looking nice, maybe you want to do something to enhance that energy you're giving off, right? Consider how you could stop being a small bamboo energy giver and become a big bamboo energy giver. Work hard on it, because you know what, you see all of them attacks, you see the memes on them things don't fret me, because I know precisely why I am what I am. So no, work on your small bamboo energy, because you know what, I worked on my teeth. Right, so that's that, because I see people was asking if I was going to deal with it. So I've dealt with it, and I'm telling only this. The next time he start up with the foolishness, me ain't bothering to take it on. All right, I think this has gotten enough of my brain cells. I use up enough synapses on this. Okay, next topic. Where's the next topic? So the next topic I call the hardened boys, all right? And all your boy tech guy, he had done a whole, so this was the live I was going to do last week Sunday, and then there was the water damage. So yeah, we sort out the water damage issue, right? That the most I can tell is we sort out the water damage issue, it get fixed. So there's something I want to show you, and there's something I want to say. Many of you that follow me are supporters of the People's National Movement. Me have an issue with all you being supporters of the People's National Movement, because I think it's fairly obvious that if I had to vote for a party, that's the party that I would be more inclined to vote for, right? However, I also consistently reserve the right to be able to criticize the People's National Movement because it's a movement I supporting. If I leaning in all the direction, I feel I have to be in a position to hold all your to account. So when this whole business about the missing file, the Vindragate file bus, there was a whole hour I was going to sit down and talk to all you about Vindragate, the missing file, the implications of the missing file. But we ain't going to spend a whole hour on that this evening. But we are going to spend a few minutes. And I'm going to tell you something. The file not missing. The file was never missing. This whole investigation about finding the file and figuring out what is went on with the file, I'm saying it in big, I'm saying it with my whole chest. Bullshit. Bullshit. And let me tell you why I am saying bullshit with this missing file story. Number one, back in March of 2020, when Patient Zero land here. Well, remember when Patient Zero land here? And we went into lockdown, almost complete lockdown, and we had to alert people to the fact that the border's going to close and we're shutting down the country. Right. In that month, the month of March, the Solicitor General's office went digital. You hear what I'm telling all you? In March 2020, the Solicitor General's office went digital. There was a whole press release or notice that was sent out to instruct the public about how they could go about filing documents with the Solicitor General's office. The whole Solicitor General's office in March went digital. Then in April, a month later, April 2020, by that time we would have been in lockdown. April 2020. The judiciary issued another statement and it was gazetted. The entire judiciary had gone digital. All documents could be filed electronically. So it's there, gazetted, on public record, that the judiciary by, if not April, then certainly May 2020. So within the first couple months of the pandemic, April 2020, right? April 2020. The judiciary went digital. The judiciary was one of the first major public systems here that went fully digital at the start of the pandemic. All trials online, everything, all the case management, everything happening digitally. Correct, Wendy Prosper? Let me put up this comment on the line live so people could see. Faris was boasting about it. Right? It was one of the things that he came out and he talked about. Remember when they used to be doing those Ministry of Health press conferences, the COVID-19 press conferences? In one of those press conferences, they had the Attorney General come very early on, and he would have spent some time explaining all of the ways that the legal system, the criminal justice system here, had pivoted electronically, so that there were a range of services that was now being offered in a particular way, right? The other thing too was the judiciary would have put out, press release after press release after press release and notice after notice to let the public know what was going to be happening now with all of their cases, because the whole judiciary went online. The whole judiciary. And if the judiciary goes online, because that's where civil and criminal matters have to be heard, who you think also have to go online with their case management? Obviously, the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. So, Chief State Solicitor and Solicitor General's Office, those are the two offices that will be handling things like criminal and civil matters, right, that the government involved in. They obviously have to go digital as well. So the judiciary was handling all of its case management online. If the judiciary is handling all of its cases online, then it means that state attorneys have to be doing all of their case management digitally as well. You're filing documents digitally, you're getting your court dates digitally, you're doing all of your hearings online using Microsoft Teams. So let me show you a document. When the story broke about Filegate, Ricky Ramdas broke the story. Then, not too long after that, Rhea Tate did an investigative piece in the Express that Sunday where she went into details. I want to show you a document so that you will understand the extent to which the state attorneys dropped the ball. You see this here? This document is a timeline of the entire case and where the files move to, etc. So you have here May 29th, August 5th, 2020, November 18th, 2020, November 24th, January 8th, 2021, February 9th, 2021, March 9th, 2021, and number 11, point number 11 is what I want to look at. It says, actually, I can add myself here, boy. Yeah, let me add myself. Let me small up myself a little bit. It says here, point number 11, Chief State Solicitor, Mr. Sean Julian, served with the entire electronic file containing all documents filed in court to date and given notice of the fact that default judgment has been entered and that the assessment of damages was fixed for hearing on July 6th. Now, goodly people, there's a point I want to make here, and I want to make the point quickly. By July 2021, the state had already defaulted, not shown up, not presented any case in the trial. And maybe I need to break that down. So these 9 fellas would have been arrested and charged with Vindra's murder. They were found not guilty because there wasn't enough evidence to tie them to the actual murder. So that part of the case ends. And they then sue the court for malicious prosecution, or sue the state for malicious prosecution. Let me tell you what malicious prosecution means. Malicious prosecution means that the police just randomly and arbitrarily pick up these fellas and press charges against them without any evidence at all. Now, for charges to be pressed against anybody in our criminal justice system, it is have to go to the office of the DPP. So these fellas, the fellas who were arrested and charged with Vindra Naipal Kuhlman's murder, their attorneys, Ann and Ram Logan, would have argued that the state had no grounds on which to charge them fellas. And that was not the case. There was evidence. There was solid enough evidence for the office of the DPP and magistrates to look at and say, these are the charges these fellas have to get. So that whole business of malicious prosecution, our attorneys within the state, if they had done their jobs and shown up in court when this matter was heard, they would have been in a situation where that $20 million that we now have to pay these fellas would not have been an issue at all. So what you have to ask yourself is, the default judgment takes place. The court rules that these fellas were maliciously prosecuted. But the court rules that these fellas were maliciously prosecuted not because there was evidence to support the claim, but because nobody for the state showed up. Months and months and months of court hearings and court dates. And it's not a situation where you have to go to a physical building. All of the hearings happening online. So all of the hearings require that you click a link, boop. And when you click the link, boop, you log in to the courtroom, which is being handled on Microsoft Teams. And your legal team present the arguments and cases. The team for the defendants present the arguments and cases. The judge listen, the judge rule. Nobody for the state attended any of those virtual court hearings. That's what I need all you to understand. Nobody from the Solicitor General's office, nobody from the Chief State Solicitor's office. Who was the attorney assigned to the case? We don't know. And the argument that we are being given is that a big physical file was lost. And I am saying to you, because there was electronic filing at that point in time, I refuse to believe that a file was lost. It makes no sense. The maths. But let me say, for the sake of argument, that the physical file went missing. When on the 5th of July, so let me switch back and smallen up myself a little bit again. On the 5th of July, when Sean Julian gets the entire electronic file, right? When he get the whole electronic file, tell me why nobody from the office of the Attorney General or from the Chief State Solicitor's office did not approach the court and ask the court to set aside the default judgment. Because if all you know, there was grounds for prosecution, if there was enough evidence for the DPP and a magistrate to say, yes, these charges need to be laid against these men, and we are aware that there was evidence that informed the DPP's and the magistrate's decision to lay charges. Why, when all you see this default judgment and all get notice of this default judgment, nobody from the Chief State Solicitor's office didn't step forward and say, this is a mad scene. Let we approach the court. Let we ask the court to set aside this default judgment and petition the court. Go forward and argue the case again. How is it that there were so many opportunities to get the courts to set aside this judgment and nobody took those opportunities? How is it that the state then shows up months later in November of 2022, right? So plenty months later to then make recommendations and say, well, give each of the men $1.2 million. So all you had since the 5th of July 2021. So let me say they really didn't know nothing about the case between May 2020 and July 2021. That's a whole year, right? Let me say it was really a physical file. And let me say the physical file really went missing in July 2021 when only get the digital file and had the whole digital file and know that all had solid grounds, that the state had solid grounds for pressing charges against these men. Why did the Chief State Solicitor not launch a response and ask the court to set aside the default judgment and then argue properly? And that's my bone of contention. Me cater, right? All of this at a bangarang about we had to find the file and we had to investigate, and me interested in whether or not a physical file went missing, you know. I want to know why, when July 5th, 2021 happened, and all you find out about the case and the default judgment, and all you had the electronic file in hand, why was nothing done? So from July 2021 all the way into late 2022, nobody in the Chief State Solicitor's office attempts to get the courts to set aside the default judgment. And that is the question I have. That's the only question I want answered. All this sort of foolishness about case and file and whether it's missing or ain't missing, I feel quite certain it have a paper trail to show you who get documents emailed to them, who get links emailed to them, who get court dates emailed to them, and nobody ain't do nothing. So all ain't do nothing from 2020 to 2021. Why? In 2021, when you got the electronic file, nobody ain't do nothing. And all you wait until January 2023, when the whole country up in arms and feeling sick in the stomach because policing fail us, judiciary fail us, state attorneys fail us, and we money jumping up in the fucking dance. Right? So now, all of a sudden, everybody coming on TV to gallery themselves in a press conference and throw big file down on counter and then talk about the hiring this one and that one for investigation. We need to hire nobody for no fucking investigation. Just give me the Chief State Solicitor laptop or computer inside the office of the Attorney General. Let me sit down with that one day, and I go in through the emails and I sure I could be able to piece the story together. I'm absolutely certain. And I will do that for you free of charge. Me and charging. I will sit down and I will go through all the emails from 2020 to 2022 dealing up with this particular case, and I sure I gonna be able to show you when they received the first file. And listen, I'm willing to bet money that the first file they got back in 2020 was digital. The file that they claiming is a 5-inch thick file that just went missing. I'm willing to bet it had a digital version of that file. Willing to bet. I want to know why nobody did their job. Because that's what is went on here, you know. A whole long list of persons who did not do their job. Something as basic as following up on a case file, applying or assigning a case file number and an attorney to a file, and then making sure that all of the necessary follow through takes place. So you see this Filegate issue and the way in which the government want to dress it up with this whole investigation. Bullshit. I say so. All you damn well know what went on with our file. And this investigation is meant to hide the fact that there were a set of public servants who didn't do their job. And my question, because I clear is a set of public servants that didn't do their job. My question is, did they not do their job because they're incompetent, or did they not do their job because it was part of a greater collusion? So conspiracy or incompetence? That's what I need to know. And something tells me once I have the email trail and I see what happened and didn't happen, it will be clear whether it was a conspiracy or whether it was incompetence. But what I'm clear on is this: whether it was conspiracy or incompetence, plenty people head should have done roll. Because you see, that business day about a file, an electronic file coming in the 5th of July, and the top man get the file and ain't do nothing, ain't petition the court to set aside the default ruling. And then 20 million of we dollars whining in a fucking mass band going down the road. Only rest me, eh? Rest me. You see, this particular story, this story had me so vexed, or you wouldn't believe. So this one, a whole live I had dedicated to this. When I had finished with our live, I sure was making plenty enemies. Anyhow, so let's wrap that up. And we're moving on to the next topic now. What's the next topic? 40 years in the wilderness. So, folks, full disclosure, I am a huge fan of Machel Montano. Huge. I grew up with Machel's music. Machel and I are roughly the same age. I think I'm maybe 2 or 3 years younger than he is. So I remember as a child hearing that he had passed common entrance for Presentation College San Fernando. I remember listening to him, looking at him singing Too Young to Soca, and basically moving up as a child star before my eyes as a child growing up, right? So I've always been a huge fan. I'm also the sort of person who does just decide that there are certain things about us as a people in Trinidad and Tobago that we just get right or we don't get right. And the things we don't get right, I guess I just work around the shortcomings and see how best I could cope and deal, right? So, since the Real Unity concert, well, even before that, when he was playing in fetes and thing with Ecstatic and Panasonic Express, and I used to go, I used to watch, I used to enjoy the shows. And so I've been a fan from forever. Huge fan. Love his music. But one of the things that has always been very iffy with Machel Montano's brand has been concerts. So 40 years ago, he would have started off as a young boy in the music industry, in the entertainment industry. 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, Machel would have done a concert called Real Unity. And at that concert, there are plenty of you on this live that old enough to remember, a whole stand collapsed. The VIP section collapsed, right? The show going on. He gets on stage, and it happened very early on in the concert. So he came on stage, and he came on stage with a lot of energy, singing, right? And he's back and forth on the stage performing. Machel may have got into like 3 or 4 lines of the song, maybe the first verse of the song. And then he stops and he starts saying, "All you okay? All you alright? Tell me all you alright." I was busy jumping up at the front of the stage in general. I was in general. I wasn't in VIP. And it was only at that point I turned around and realized that the VIP stands that was just a couple feet away from me had collapsed. And they had to help people out. There were people who were injured. There was a pregnant woman there that night. She had a child. She named the child after Machel. I think the Machel Montano's family paid for the child's education, or contributed rather towards the child's education. It was a lot that went on. And after that concert experience, I mean, a lot of people wondered whether he would be able to come back from it. Because what Machel did then with the Real Unity concert was groundbreaking. It was bold, it was brave. Because here you had a solo artist, a solo soca artist, and a young solo soca artist deciding, I'm not going to wait for the tents on them. I'm not going to wait for fete promoters on them to throw a show to be able to make money. I go in as an individual to throw the event myself and shape the event and craft the event and make the event into a particular type of product that represents me. So when that accident happened at the show, there was a lot of bitterness, I think, within Machel's camp, because of course it would have left people feeling quite traumatized. I don't think he had a show for a while, and then eventually he came back on the scene, because Real Unity would have been about 99, 2000 thereabouts. It would have been actually 2000, right? It was in November of 2000, around his birthday or close to his birthday. Then a couple years later, he decided to throw the alternative concept to Gras. That was the whole name of the show. the alternative concept to Gras. And when he threw the alternative concept to Gras, the very first year, again, there was an accident because he was using pyrotechnics, right? And this guy went, I think there was a fella in a suit, and he was going up, a guy in a, oh God, I forget what you call the thing, but he blast off, right? And the pyrotechnics caused an accident. So there was a pyrotechnics episode. However, that didn't deter him. He continued, and he built the brand of the show. So when alternative concepts started, they used to have it down Panorama side. And by the time they got to alternative concept 3, so by the third year of alternative concept, they had to make the decision to change the venue. Why? Because, oh yes, Jetpack. Thank you very much, Terry. Because by alternative concept 3, people who was going to the show spend almost 5 hours in traffic trying to get to Pier 2 for the show. Right? Yes, Eiffel Tower. Eiffel Tower, you know thing. I must see wine on you in that fete and don't even know. So, you're strong in traffic for 5 hours. I was in the traffic. So, I would have left home like 9 o'clock to go down to the show. And got to Pier 2 around somewhere between 2-3 o'clock in the morning. That's to tell you. In traffic that entire time. Inching to reach down to Pier 2. 5 hours in traffic. And then I reach the show and I get about an hour, maybe an hour and a half for the show. And then had to sit down. Well, I didn't leave one time. I stayed in Chaguaramas for about an hour or two, liming, chilling, relaxing, and then drove back home. It was really bad because people from the peninsula couldn't even get out to go to anything. So after alternative concept 3, after that bacchanal take place, they moved the show to the Queen's Park Savannah. So the alternative concept 4 happened in the Savannah. And thereafter, after they moved the show to the Savannah, he started having the show in the Hazley Crawford Stadium. AC5 all the way down to AC5, 6 and 7. So it went from the alternative concept to Gras to AC5. The alternative concept to Gras to AC, and then he stopped having he stopped having AC after he got to AC7. He then switched to a different day, so from a Saturday to a Monday. Now, why am I taking my time to go through all of this? Because I want you to be clear on something. It's not now Machel throwing concerts. It's not now. He's been throwing concerts for a good 2 decades and change. And I have been attending those concerts religiously for a good 2 decades and change. I went when it was the alternative concept. I went when it was AC. I went when it became Machel Monday. Went. Never missed it. And when he advertised and said he was going to be doing his 40th anniversary show, of course, I'm going to be there. And that show on Friday night was easily the worst concert that I've ever attended that he was the headline act for. But there are a number of things that I think we need to talk about, because plenty of people talk about the lines and the lines and the lines. For me, the lines would have been a problem, yes, But the lines is not what got me upset about the show. So let me start with my experience of MM40's show. I left home minutes to 11 because I wasn't interested in the Afrobeats part of the concert. And I wasn't interested in the Afrobeats part of the concert for this reason. Afrobeats music, while bearing some similarities to soca, is not the same thing as soca. Two different vibes. And because it's two different vibes and people showing up in the heat and heart of the carnival season for a carnival concert, I knew that Afrobeats would be far too laid back for me. It would not bring the energy that I would want from a carnival show. So, Candace Santana, we're going to get into the Barclays show and we're going to talk about it. As a matter of fact, let me add this comment. So Candace Santana says, MM40 in Barclay was world class, so the expectation of it in Trinidad was high. And I get that, and we're going to get into it. So, I went to the show. I leave my house after 10 because I knew I'm not interested in hearing Wizkid and any of the other Afrobeats artists because I want a carnival show. I want to see Laundry put on the countdown and we go from 60 seconds to 0 and Machel busts out on stage. However he busting out on stage, right? So I leave house after 10. Reach, I park George V. And let me tell you why I parked George V. Even though I was in a section that ought to have secured parking, when you got to the venue, when I drove past the venue, there was no signage to let me know this is where there was parking for holders of such and such ticket. Right? So I park up by George V Park because I know this is a park where it always lit, it always have people, so I'll be able to walk back to my car. Nobody will be able to harass me. I walk down to the stadium. When I reach the stadium, I walk in the stadium. I walk past General, and when I walk past General entrance, I am seeing some long lines to get into General. This is at minutes to 11. And I was surprised because normally when you reach the show by that time, between 11 and 12 in the night, you stroll in straight through security checks and handing your ticket and going about your business. So I went to my section. There was a line. It wasn't a long line, but there was a line, but it was moving. So we flowed in. We got upstairs. We sit down, plant ourselves down. When we got upstairs and we plant ourselves down, there was a DJ hype man on stage. So I say, well, okay, Wizkid must perform already and now we waiting for Machel to come on the stage. So I'm like, it's after 11, it's getting close to 12. By that time, it's close to 12. So I'm like, okay, close to 12. So that means boy had to be getting ready to come on stage. When I realized he not coming on stage yet, Wizkid now coming on stage, I went down to get foods and drinks, right? You reach down to get food and drinks, and the food line is long. Concession lines are long. Now, I'll be the first person to say this. Usually, I don't buy food when I go to these concerts because I found that no promoter really understands how to do a proper concession layout at a concert. Maybe at all-inclusive fests it happens more efficiently and effectively, but at concerts, I have yet to encounter a concession, a food and drinks layout where people not standing up in lines for ridiculously long lengths of time just to be able to get a bacon shack or wings and fries or some drinks or a bottle of water. So usually I just eat before I go to the event, make sure that I am properly well hydrated, and then just 1 bottle of water at the event, I good to go, right? But I didn't do that Friday night. So Friday night, I reached in the venue and I was hungry. So I went downstairs during WizKid's performance. And the performance was low-key. Like I said, Afrobeats music, lovely music. Love to listen to it. But I wouldn't go to a carnival concert wanting to hear Afrobeats music. I waited 90 minutes, an hour and a half in the line. WizKid perform. Our next DJ hype man come out and hype the crowd for about half an hour. Then Machel came on stage and I was still standing in line getting food, waiting to get food. Now, none of the food that was being sold there was like local food. There was no there was no corn soup, and I think there might have been shark and bake, but for the most part it was a lot of fried foreign type things, right? So I finally get my food, chicken and chips, head up to the stands. Now, down in the crowd, when I'm waiting to get the food, I'm hearing the music has started, and I turn around and I'm talking to a partner of mine who was keeping my company in the line, because he was there with his wife and thing, and he passed me in the line and he's like, he called me, stand up, we linemen and talking and thing. And I'm saying to him, I said, is it me or does the sound seem a little muffled to you? And he said, well, it ain't sounding as loud as I would expect it to sound. I said, yeah, the sound kind of muffled. It is not the type of sound that I would normally hear at an event as large as this, at a concert as big as this. So I finally get my food and I head back up on the stands. And I sit down in the stands and realize the audio up in the stands was sounding off. It was echoey. It was tinny at points. It was some fading in and out, so sometimes way more treble than there should be, too much bass, things sounding muffled, you weren't understanding everything. This whole long build up to tell all of this, whoever handled logistics for that show on Friday night owing the patrons money, because there are a number of things that were problematic. Boy and his people, Machel and his people, issued a press release today to talk about putting down the protection on the turf in the stadium. That's the least of all the problems. Because if you all booked that venue, you would have had access to the venue for several days. I know, because I was driving past the stadium most days and saw when the setup for the show began. And if the show, not if, because the show was Friday, I know you all had that venue by at least the Thursday, because I saw the stage going up on the Thursday. So you all had the show at least 24 hours before the event. That field should have been covered. So the field not being covered, I don't buy that as being the only issue. There are lots of other issues. Your sound system was bad. The concession layout was bad. The screens were tiny screens. I am accustomed to being able to sit down up in the stands, high up in the stands, and rely on looking at the large screens to know what's going on stage. The screens were so small that you couldn't actually see who was on stage. The cameras that were covering what was going on stage and reflecting things on the screens, they were doing no tight close-up shots. So you would be sitting in the audience up in the stands, because not everybody wanted to be down on the field. You're up in the stands and you are looking on, and you're squinting and you're peering at the screens and you can't make out anything. That is the first time I had that problem. Every other concert from Machel that I have gone to, I have been able to take video clips from parts of the show from off the screen, because the screen would be so large and so clear, right? So the screens were off, the speakers were off, the speaker layout was off, the stage was too dark, the stage was not lit properly, right? The stage was not lit properly. I accustomed to be able to sit down up in the stands, put on my camera, zoom in on the stage, and be able to get crisp photos. Crisp photos. None of that was possible. I took 0 photos of the event on stage because the stage was so badly lit. You didn't have the light show that I am accustomed to the stage being. Me know who was the person handling the camera out for the crowd. Whoever was that person, them too was doing a bad job. So the audio, visual, and technical aspects of the show was all so badly handled. So now I want to know, because I was told that the same team that handled the Barclays show handled the show on Friday night. Is it that they don't understand how to do a show in Trinidad and Tobago? Because, Machel, whoever you were using to do the prior Machel Monday shows, certainly the audio visual and the lights, the technical parts, that's who all you should have hired. I mean, I can't believe how bad the sound system was on Friday. I kept turning around and saying to friends of mine, but this is not how Machel does sound. Normally, Machel shows will invariably have problems with food and lineup for food and drinks, and it can always. Because for whatever reason, catering at concerts is a headache. But the actual show on stage is never a crap show. And I'll say this. If the show, when it started, was a good show, nobody would have complained about lining up for 2.5 hours and waiting 2.5 hours to get into the event. Nobody. The reason that so many people are upset about that 2.5 hour wait to get into the stadium is for these reasons. One, all you tell the public gates opening from 6 o'clock to allow people to come in and to filter in and start a line. All you tell people that. If you all had said to people, Machel coming on stage at this point in time, the show kicking off at this point in time, people would have moved to suit and come down in a particular timing. But because you guys told the public the gates opening at 6 o'clock, that's why the public showed up at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. I passed Movie Town at 6 o'clock. Why is it sounding like that? At 6 o'clock. And when I drove past at 6 o'clock, I saw people already parking along the side of the highway. Already at 6 o'clock, right? 6 p.m. People done parking at the side of the highway. So when I saw that, I was like, whew, yeah boy, dramas for parking later. So misinformation or information that would have been inaccurate, that caused a problem. Not having the venue set up on time, that caused a problem. Your logistics, huge problem. The technical aspect of the show, huge problem. And you know what? The technical aspect of the show was one of the things that I would say is definitely within your control. Because in the past, there would be lots of other problems with the show and how the show came off. But you see, the technical aspects, those things were always under control. you would get on stage, and whether or not there were problems backstage, nobody would know that there were problems backstage, because the performance, the spectacle, the technical show that you would execute for us would be flawless. And because of how flawless the audio, visual, musical, technical performance would be, people would forget all of the other issues. So this brings me to this point. 40 years in the business, 20-something years of doing concerts. I don't think that Friday should have happened. Something fell down somewhere. Whether it is one person, whether it is a series of persons, something fell down somewhere. The entire live performance was digital. There were no bands. There were barely dancers as well. So the kind of spectacle that you grew to expect from Machel, that didn't happen either. And based on how well executed the Barclays show was, you know that money spent to make sure that the Barclays show was flawless. So you have to ask yourself, they cut costs for the Trinidad show? Did they cut costs for the Trinidad show? Because the next thing is this: taxpayers' money jump up in that show. At the very least, 2 state companies co-sponsor the show: Caribbean Airlines and NLCB. So our money jump up to give the public a subpar show. And that, you see, if Caribbean Airlines and NLCB money wasn't involved, I would say, Rhoda, you spend your money, you get a bad product, well, now you know better. But state money was spent at this show. And it's not the first time the state has invested in Machel Montano. It's not the first time. And invariably, we tend to think that Machel will be a good investment, right? So it's not the first time that we've invested in Machel, and it's not the first time that we've had to question that investment. So that's my take on Machel show. So we're moving on to the last topic. All right, last topic. I ain't even gonna bother to talk about going for gold. I leaving that alone. So the young and the worthless folks.
Don't want your I don't want it.
All in tell me, all you have a whole new series going on. I pick up myself and sit down, was it last week Tuesday, last week Wednesday evening, and listen to our live, and I nearly fucking dead on that live. Now, all you might think that what it is I dead for, nearly dead for, had to do with who talking about a piggy too tired and who talking about who want who pussy, right? Because the language got very explicit. That's not why I nearly dead. But we go get into why I nearly dead just now. So, the young and the whatless. Watson Duke last week responded to a post that his former deputy political leader, Kezell Jackson, would have put up on social media, right? Whether it's Facebook or Instagram, she tendered her resignation publicly. When she tendered her resignation publicly, Watson Duke then put out his own post indicating that at 4 p.m. he was going to hold a live and he was going to clear the air. He held the live, he cleared the air, and he cleared my sinuses as well. Because by the time I finished laughing, coughing, and crying over that live, there was no congestion in my system. So after he did the live, the next thing that would have happened was this.
So guys, I'm here with Watson Duke. We are at Le Bleu. We came for the diaspora engagement. He's on his phone making sex calls in front of my face. Last thing I know, we're in a relationship since last year. He was with Kezell. He is still with Kezell, who's been torturing her. I will post up all of the content she's been sending me and my family till I have to make police reports. Mr. Duke has done nothing about it. He has come now in my face to make a sex phone call in front of me. All right, we're in Le Bleu. I have nowhere to go. I've told Mr. Duke, go and book in my room, but she indicated, no, I need you, I want you. I have all of the recordings, all of the conversations from the day we started this relationship is backed up on my computer.
Right. Y'all would be hearing me out. Good. So on a good Thursday morning, I go get up and turn round and see my phone full up of videos with Watson any jockeys. So I wondering why I had to be seeing these images of Watson any jockeys. Then not too long after that, I then see a video of Kezell Jackson examining her breasts in a video and then examining her genitals in a video and then laying back down in a tub of water that she claims is very hot and basically masturbating. Here's what I want you all to understand. For me, this ain't about piggy and pussy. For me, this whole issue was about leadership. Kezell Jackson was a deputy political leader of a political party. Watson Duke is the political leader and owner of a political party. When you are at the helm of a political party in this country, you're basically saying, I am in a position to make decisions to lead this country. I am in a position to make decisions for 1.4 million people. If Kezell Jackson is his deputy political leader, Watson is then saying to us, the public, that I believe that this person is a good candidate to train to become the leader of the party. When Watson Duke said to us or announced to us that Suzette Lowe was a deputy political leader of his party, what he was saying to all of us is that Suzette Lowe, who does jump on social media to gaslight and race bait people, he thinks that that person is a suitable person to train to become the ultimate decision maker for us. Right? That is what I need you all to understand. That is what Watson Duke is saying. So, I want to listen to two parts of Watson's interview, but not the parts that Ollie thinking about, because I'm not interested in who want to talk about their genitals. It is not their genitals that disturbed me. It's something else far more important. So I had the video queued up on my system here, but I feel it in making more sense to queue up the video on the iPad. So I don't have that. I might have that probably. It could take too long to do that there. So let me do it here. Well, so it goes. So there are two bits that I want to look at, and we're going to look at it and we're going to talk about it. Okay?
I live by my rules. I live in a very focused kind of way. That's Watson Duke. I'm a man of strong opinions, but very sensitive to the needs of others. That being said, I have 7 points to make this evening. Point number 1. Where did I know Kezell Jackson from, the DPL? Trust me, I never knew who Miss Jackson was until after December 2021, when we won the election. I saw a message came in to me, "Hi, good day." And I said, "Hi." I recognized it was a lady. And I was very cautious. That time I was still working in the PSA back and forth, you know. We had won the elections, and soon after that, she began contacting me, telling me she wants to meet with me. I said, "Where?" "By your house. She's building some villas, nature resort, and come by your villa." I was concerned, and I remember telling my personal assistant back then, I wouldn't call her name, but she knows who she is. I said, "Look, I want you to come to me that meeting, because I'm going to meet a woman in some villa in some mountain. I don't know what to expect. And I know I'm a man under the knife, under the gun, people looking for me to fall and looking for me to slip. So I want to make sure I carry someone as a witness." Unfortunately, when I had the time to visit, I came directly from Tobago to Trinidad, and it was already late. So I went up into this hill, way up in Santa Cruz, some back part, to find Miss Kezell Jackson. She came out of her house, she greeted me, she told me, "Come inside." And I sat, and she began to sell dreams, where she's this big, important woman. She meets with Faris, she meets with this one, and everyone is coming to her place, and she advised this person in this country, that man in that country, and she has a vision that I will be the prime minister, and she wants me to be the prime minister, and she's willing to work with me. And I can trust her and tell her anything. She will not repeat it. I said, okay, but I am a wise man.
Picture this. A man has decided that he wants to get into politics. And you know that politics is a very, very, very sticky game in any part of the world. So you get into politics, and you get into politics with charges hanging over your head, right? Rape allegations are hanging over your head. And a woman asks you to come and see her. And you make the decision, the active decision, to go and see this woman without ever having done any due diligence. You've done no background checks into the person. You've done no research into the person. You go and you meet this person in questionable circumstances, and she feeds you a narrative about herself, and based on your commentary, you believe the entire narrative. How is that the actions of a wise fellow? Because you see, Watson contradicts himself a lot throughout this entire video that he has done. He's a wise man, but at the same time, this wise man making a lot of foolish decisions. You're hearing him talk about spending money, and he's spending money wildly. There's a point early, within the first 15 minutes, before Watson gets to the point where he distracts the population with all kind of talk about genitals and who tired and who ain't tired and who could be fighting up with woman and who's sex crazy. Before he ever gets to that point, the first 15 minutes of this life, there's so many things that Watson said inside there that ought to frighten anybody who was thinking about voting for him, if only because it shows that he is either a poor decision maker or, if not, a liar. Because if we are to believe some of the things that he's saying, the man don't know how to make decisions. Watson basically comes on that live and says he was raped multiple times. He doesn't use the word rape, but he talks about being forced to have sex. That's how he makes it sound. That this woman, who is his subordinate, he is superior to her. He is the political leader. He is the person that owns the party. He is the person that running the party. He is a person who was at the head of the PSA, would have had access to PSA membership, PSA support, PSA funding. He has influence in Wassa. He has influence in Tobago. And all of a sudden, this man who has all of this power, all of this influence, and based on what he says in the video, money to spend on a range of things, this man suddenly is weak and a victim and victimized and abused by this woman who he makes his deputy political leader. And it's somebody he meets in 2021. So, what? Roughly a little over a year ago? A little over a year ago, you met this woman. So not a full 2 years. right? Let me say a year and a half. You meet this woman a year and a half ago, right after the elections. She tells you all kinds of things. You swallow it wholesale, yet you're a wise man. You make her your deputy political leader, and she then proceeds to manipulate you. This wise man, he just said it for himself. He's a wise man. So you are a wise man, and this woman outfox you, outmaneuver you, manipulate you to the point where she was raping you repeatedly, forcing you to have sex. Because once somebody forcing you to have sex, Watson, that is rape. So you telling me a man who was or who is on rape charges was raped? All you understand the heights in that? A man who is currently facing rape charges in our judicial system comes and sits on a live and tells people that he was forced to have sex with a woman. And hear why he forced to have sex with a woman: to avoid further rape allegations. So Watson, attempting to avoid further allegations of rape against him, allows himself to be raped by his deputy political leader, so that way she ain't gonna slap him up and go to the police and tell the police, look, this man raped me. So Watson allowed himself to be raped to be able to avoid rape charges. That is what we sit down and was told in our live last week, you know. That's all you need to understand. That is a level of heights that Watson give up he pamper lambs, right? Kezel lock him in a room. He couldn't move, right? She asked him for a hug, right? He deputy political leader, corner him in a room, ask him for a hug. And because he facing the possibility of rape charges, he allowed himself to be forced to have sex. So you went along with forced sex, also known as rape, to avoid being accused of rape. Okay. And we supposed to swallow that. We supposed to believe that. Alright. I want to go back to the video because I want all to listen to this bit of the recording as well.
Over the place because I'm focused. And so one Friday evening, everybody left the office. We Lyman. I enjoyed the talk. Time to go home. She closed, she blocked the door. She said, where are you going? I said, I'm going home. She said, give me a hug. I watch her. I know that sound like trouble, smell like trouble. So I gave her the hug. Next thing, she started to kiss me. Now, one of the things I must say, inside my office, she built it with a room at the back saying, well, look, sometimes political figures are tired and they want to rest. I said, all right, no problems. So my office has a room in the back. It's a own toilet, bath, etc. After the hug, then came a kiss. After the kiss, she hold my hand and engage in sexual activity with me. I couldn't fight. I couldn't say anything because I am under a rape charge. And I know when a woman tell you, come, if you don't come, and they decide to ball out and reverse it, you will end up like Joseph. You'll end up with a rape charge and nobody will believe you because they feel I like woman. Now people feel I like woman. I might like woman, yeah, but I know who I like and who like me. I don't run down woman. And I don't like woman to force herself upon me. So she forced herself upon me. And that was just the beginning. That's how I met her. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2. She said she fell in love with me. Chapter 2, briefly. I get that story. She fell in love with me. Went home and tell her mother, she had sex with me. She tell Mozart, that's her husband, she had sex with me. And she began to tell everybody who she could tell she had sex with me. I don't know why she was doing that. And said that nobody never made her feel that way in her entire life. Yeah? She want to talk story. She's saying that I crazy, I not focused, and my party bar, but it's a real story I'm going to give you. Because I cannot sit down honestly to God, sit down here, and allow this woman to destroy my good name that I'm fighting for in this country.
Olio, Watson says he's fighting for his good name. Watson also says that he allowed himself to get entangled with his deputy political leader. I need you all to understand how power dynamics work. If Watson is the political leader of the party, he is in the ultimate position of power. Cazelle cannot tell him what to do. If Watson is also, as he says, a man who is wise and in control of himself and doesn't like women to force themselves on him, how does he then end up in a position where he is repeatedly having sex with people who are his subordinates? In any regular organization, when a senior person is having sexual intercourse with a person who is a subordinate, that could easily become a case for sexual harassment, because one person is holding more power than the other person. Later on in this same life, he keeps talking about the nature of the abusive relationship between the two of them. So you, as political leader, you appointing people as your deputies, right? You have appointed people to serve as deputies. Deputy political leader doesn't get voted in, right? There's no internal elections voting for that position. If this woman slapping you up and beating you up, as you say, you wouldn't fire that person? You wouldn't remove that person from your organization? So, as a political leader, as somebody who is thinking of himself or herself as the next leader of the country, you keep an abusive person within your organization and you engage in sex with that person? So what does that say to me if you were to ever get into a position of political power in this country? Women safe around you? Because what you basically telling me is, if you become prime minister of this country, the secretary in your office just had a bus to slap on you and she could rape you in the office of the prime minister. So we would be thinking that we have somebody who is a firm, resolute decision maker, when in truth and in fact, what will be taking place is the typist, the stenographer, the clerk, tree, whoever it is inside the office of the Prime Minister could just rest to slap on you, rock to slap in your ass, and have you appointing whoever it is to various position and posts, sending money here, sending money wherever it is, and getting you to spend public money while. That's what I get from that life. I basically listen to Watson Duke tell me that while he thinks he's a man in charge, he wasn't a man in charge. That somebody who was subordinate to him could cut his tail, rock slap in the backside, hold him down, rape him, and tell him what to do with money. So how I supposed to vote for you? How I supposed to feel confident that you could make decisions for me, partners? Because I am a very assertive woman. Imagine Watson Duke is the Prime Minister of this country. Me even had to be working in the office of the Prime Minister. All I had to do is walk in the office. Because who going and stop me? Nobody going and stop me. Walk in the office, walk upstairs to his main office, and rock to slap on Watson. Rest to slap on him and tell him, hey, this how much money I want you to put in local government. This how much money I want you to put in health. Get so and so this contract. Get that board position. That's all that have to happen. So after you come and tell the country that this woman that you hire to be a DPL rape you in a back office, you then put up videos of yourself with your wife. Mrs. Watson Duke supposed to take her husband to a rape victim shelter. I not understanding how the two of you sit down in a car kissing up like two lovebirds for the country when Watson is clearly a victim of abuse and interpersonal partner violence and rape. If Watson's wife really loves she husband, she wouldn't be making Instagram reels and Facebook posts to put up on social media. She would be starting a GoFundMe for Watson Duke, the victim of intimate partner violence, so that we could send money, donations, so that Watson could be held safely in an abuse shelter somewhere. Because Watson was abused. Kezel rock slapping the ass and rape him. The man was forced to give up his piggy. Right? That's what you need to understand, Watson sit down and tell us that he was forced to allow a woman to get on his piggy so that way nobody could accuse him of rape. So poor Watson must have to lie down and say, hey, take it. This is the only way I gonna be able to save my reputation. Now imagine that as your Prime Minister. Because me cater with all the thing Kezel come to say afterwards about who she find him with and why she slap him, Me a business with that. Watson big, Kezel big. The two of them could decide to have sex with whoever it is they want to have sex with. What I concerned with is what the underlying behavior tells us about responsibility, accountability, transparency, use of funds and money, and of course, decision making. Because suppose Watson go to CARICOM Heads of Government Summit to represent Trinidad and Tobago. And somebody, some woman or some man across in this summit decide we want Trinidad and Tobago to sign up or sign on a particular treaty. And the cabinet position is no, Trinidad and Tobago not agreeing to that. All any of them other CARICOM governments had to do is send a woman to corner Watson in a room, rock to slap on him, force him to have sex, and they could make him sign any treaty. That's what Watson telling me, you know. Me, you know, if all you watch the same video I watch. But I listen to a man say, hey, this woman beat me. I take the licks, I hush my mouth, I ain't do nothing. And because I have rape charges pending, I allow this woman to force me to have sex with her. So that way, nobody will be able to say that I raped them. I want a little grasp that, you know. Watson had sex with the woman, so nobody could come and say that he forced the woman to have sex, you know. There's a level of logic we dealing up with. I didn't want to have sex with she, but I allow myself to bullshit because I don't want nobody say that I forced the woman to have sex with me. Me, listen. So I watch that. I watch all of the commentary. I see all of the things people come out and say about Kezel and how she shape and how she look. And I said to myself, Ole lost the script here. Ole have a handle on the script at all. Ole miss the fact that Watson get raped. Ole miss the fact that Watson is a victim of domestic abuse. You all also miss the fact that this man, who is positioning himself to be a political leader and a future prime minister in this country, could sit down and casually talk about inappropriate sexual relations with people he's working with. He can also casually talk about women's sexuality, women's sexual behavior in a derogatory, contemptuous, and offensive manner. Watson Duke showed zero respect for any woman in that video. He didn't show respect for Kezel, who he says is a colleague. He didn't show respect for his wife either. And if Watson Duke could be telling you that he wants to be your representative, and he has the sort of jackass attitude that he showed there towards women, women's bodies, relationships with women, whether it's working relationships or marital relationships, if all you're content to have something like that make decisions for all you at the national level, all you're real good. All you're real good. All you have way more belly than me. Because after I listened to that video, I can't vote for Watson. Not that I ever felt I could have voted for Watson. But that video let me know whether he could think. And Watson ain't show me that he capable of thought processes in that video. Nothing he said there made sense. But there are many things that he didn't say that had me asking questions. Where did money that he was giving Kezel come from? Anybody stop to ask that? When he talked about how he gave Kezel hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix the PDP office, where that money come from. So a woman who has shown you she capable of abusive behavior and insubordinate behavior, you give this woman hundreds of thousands of dollars to do upgrades to an office building. And all are we supposed to believe that you capable of sane, sound, responsible leadership. Look, Olia, it is time for the merry monarch to reign. I am hopeful that this girl push her best foot forward, right? Maria Bola, because I convinced that Watson put out that whole video this week to support Maria Bola. For me, that's the only sensible conclusion that I could arrive at. That Watson decide, I like Maria, I want Maria to win Dimanche Gras, so let me put out a story about people man to support Maria. So the whole country go be buzzing about Horner man, Horner woman, people man, and she go get the opportunity to do a special verse for the North Stand, the Grandstand, and the people at home. And so that way, she go mash up and shell down and turn the place over, and she go win the crown. That's the only thing that making sense to me. Because if Ole can't get me to believe that Watson Duke was of sound mind, when he sit down and do a whole life to say that he, a man on rape charges, who want to be the prime minister of this country, allow a woman to hold him down in his political party office and rape him so he could avoid rape charges. Olia, have all yourself a good evening, a safe and happy carnival, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.